So today we're at a familiar place, but maybe in an unfamiliar structure. We are at Oruran Ltd. They have been leading design and innovation in Barbados for years, and it's no surprise that they are the go-to specialists for these structures. They are answering all of the questions from design and installation to the pricing. Let us get into it. I'm Kelly Johnley, and this is Bajan Renovation. Now, if you're anything like me, you have been using the words container and pods interchangeably. Well, I have learned today that they're two very different things. And I learned it from someone who really knows what they're talking about. Please tell us, what is the difference between a container and a pod? Because I was expecting to see something that I would find in the Bridgetown port, and this is just not matching up my expectations.
Sure. So containers are primarily used for cargo. Okay. They're designed that way. They're built with marine grade steel. They have cargo doors, and you use them for shipping.
Okay.
Whereas pods are meant to be multi-purpose. Okay. They're meant to be customizable. They're built from, even though the structure is steel, the walls are insulated with steel. And have steel sheets, so you could leave out a wall if you wanted to. You could cut holes in it. It's meant to be purpose-built.
All right, I'm glad you ended on purpose-built, because I am seeing all of a sudden these pods popping up everywhere. I mean, I used to just think it was something for HGTV, and then you're going to have our little deep dive on Pinterest. And then, as you know, we recently featured a property that was a converted pod, but you guys only started bringing them in towards the end of last year. What are people buying pods for?
People are buying pods for pretty much every use under the sun. Okay. Contractors are using them as site offices.
That's the first place we saw them.
Yep. Small businesses are using them as stores, so you could set it up as a little pop-up shop. Restaurants are using them for outdoor kitchens and whatnot.
Yes, and storage.
Yep, storage is another one. You put louvers in there and you can use it as storage. And and some construction companies are also using them for dormitories.
Okay, so we do know that the residences is people tend to, at least within our little community here, people are looking at them for residences, whether it is an Airbnb or you just want some guest space, or you want the home office, but you don't want the home office inside the home, you want a little extra space. These pods, are we going to sweat to death in these pods? I realize that, as you said, the material is a little different. Now, I imagine if I'm sitting in a container, right, that I would die. What is it about these structures? Is there better airflow? What is it that's making them work for these spaces?
Well, for one, the walls are insulated, so it does limit heat transfer. Okay. But more importantly, what you typically do is you cut out a portion of the wall and put in either windows for ventilation or louvers. You can install an air conditioning unit in there. I mean, if it's just the pod itself, yeah, it's gonna be pretty hot. But typically, you would take some measures to make the space more habitable.
Now, these measures and these customizations, who can do them? Is it a service that your company offers, or is it something that I now need to work with a designer or contractor to do?
So typically what we would do is we would supply the pod and then outfit the envelope. So you want a window on one side, a door on the other, you want a shop front, you want louvers, we would do all of that exterior work. But on the inside, that's where you could just hire a carpenter, an electrician, a tiler, and they could, just like they would do it for a house, they would do inside the pod.
Okay, so when I come to you and I say, hey, I'd like to purchase a pod, I'm going to be using it for, I think I had an example earlier that you had a customer who bought one because she wanted to teach a space to teach lessons, that she's a teacher and she's using it as her lesson space. For someone like that, you will put on the door on the side of the envelope that they want it on. You'll put in the windows. But when it comes to things now, like let's say if she wants carpeting or if she wants to have shelves, those interior fixtures would be for the customer to take care of.
Exactly.
Got you.
And basically any tradesperson could come in there and work in the space like they were working in somebody's home. It's really quite easy in that sense.
Now, one question, and I really hope you have the answer, right? Because I got it asked so many times and I tried to avoid it. Do I require planning permission to put a pod down on my house, on a property, sorry?
So let me preface this.
Okay.
I am not a town planner, and I have not gotten my information directly from town planning, but these would qualify as temporary structures because they can be moved.
That is what I have been told. So I said, let me find out from somebody else. So you spoke about customization. Roughly, what's the turnaround time or something like that? Let's say I've come to you, I have selected my pod, I have made my payments, and we'll get to the payments later because I know you all have a number. And I say, look, I would like a double door and I would like 2 windows. What's roughly a turnaround process for something like this?
So typically the manufacturing of the windows and doors for something like this could take anywhere from 1 week if it's something that's just in stock that we're picking up off the shelf. If it's something more custom, it can take somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks. But the construction of the pod itself typically takes under a week.
I'm so glad you said that. You're making the pods here.
They're being constructed here.
Being constructed here.
Yeah, so the materials come in and they're assembled.
Okay, I didn't even know that. For some reason, I just imagined a container full of pods coming to Barbados. It's like, okay, so
that's exactly what it is. It's a container full of pods, but the pods are all knocked down as materials.
Got you.
And they're either built off-site or on-site. So if they're built off-site, there's a transportation cost involved in getting the pod to the site.
Got you.
But you can also build it in situ. So you give us the location and we'll build it there for you.
Well, I'm learning something today. So then, sizes. I saw a 20 by 10, which, guys, is much roomier than I expected. You know, whenever you heard, because the word pod sounds small, you just for some reason think you're going to be squeezed. I saw a 20 by 20, which to me is like a New York studio apartment at this stage. What sizes do you guys offer?
So that is the standard size. There's a smaller version that would be really suitable for storage or like a guard hut, which is a 10 by 10. And then there's a larger version that has a higher ceiling.
Okay.
I think it adds an extra foot or 2 to the ceiling. Typically, if you wanted a 40 foot, you would just join 2 20 foots together.
Got you. So as you said, they're easily modified and customizable and stackable.
Exactly.
So these visions that I have now developed based on my deep dive on HGTV and on Pinterest, where I see 2 or 3 containers together and one side I could clearly see is at least 40 feet long. This is possible, obviously, with design consultation and stuff like that.
Exactly.
You can do this.
You can do that. You would stack 2 together, either lengthwise or in the width. You can look at doing multiple stories. You know, there are lots of different options. We recommend having someone consult with you on the design, but you know, once it's drawn and once we have an idea of how it's going to be built on site, it can be done.
All right. I got a few technical questions, and I understand that you are the technical man. How do these pods weather? Someone asked me roughly what is the lifespan on a pod. I mean, obviously, I do not think it is a house which is supposed to last 50 years, but a pod roughly, what kind of wear and tear are we looking at?
So it all depends on how you treat it.
Okay.
The structure itself is steel, so it has to be checked and treated from time to time. If rust starts to develop, it has to be treated. Likewise, it has to be painted as well. So you want to use a weather-resistant paint in order to extend the lifespan. If all that is done, 10 to 20 years, depending on how you're treating it, and possibly even longer if you are very diligent about your maintenance regime.
That was a lot longer. You just gave me a time span that was yeah, I'll be getting a container house. I for some reason, I thought you were going to tell me something like 5 years or no, 10 to 20 years based on how you maintain it.
Yeah.
Much like any other part of your house. Much like
Exactly.
much like a deck, you know, depending on how you maintain it. Okay. Now, class, for the reason we are all here. So what do these things cost?
So the base price for the pod, and that's the pod itself, not including delivery, not including putting in windows and doors and customization, not including the footings, just the pod itself. As if you were to take that pod
the structure,
the
the literal
itself.
structure on its own.
For the 20-foot, it's $17,272 plus VAT inclusive.
Okay, so 17,000 for my pod, and this is the 20 by 10.
Yes.
And this is the one, guys, that we're showing you now, that is at the Oran showroom in Harbour Road. So if you're driving along the side of the road after you've passed Jaffet and you're looking to the right, this is exactly where we are, and that is your 20 by 10. So you said we are starting at approximately 17,000 for that structure. Okay, and then from there, you guys would speak with the client about the modifications.
Yep, and I recommend that when the client comes into us, that they maybe have a little sketch. It doesn't have to be accurate. It can just literally be a sketch on a napkin showing this is the location of where I want a door, this is where I want a window, or a photo of something that they're looking for, a little inspiration, you know, a Pinterest page or something like that. And we will guide you along the process from that point onward.
Okay, question. Someone asked about bathrooms, right? Now I know obviously the space can be created for the bathroom. When it comes to things like installation of plumbing, toilets, etc., is that something now that I would take to my contractor or my plumber, or is that something that is done here?
That's something you would call a plumber in to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything that goes on inside would be at your subcontractors or your main contractor, depending on the scale of your project. But as for the windows and doors and those elements and the construction of the pod itself, we take care of that.
So guys, I'm trying to be very clear on this, right? Because y'all are not to hot up my DMs with this. If it is attached to the pod, that is what they're working on. If it is something that comes into the pod, that is a modification that you may need to speak with your contractors about.
And just to clarify, the footings are the responsibility of the customer. And basically a footing it could be, you know, a concrete structure at 4 different points.
What the pod is sitting on.
Basically what the pod is sitting on, and keeps the pod level, because the pod has to remain level. So you can't just stick it on the ground.
Okay, so it does not sit on the ground.
No.
Got you. That's an important detail that I did not consider. So, as the property owner or the person purchasing the pod, I am responsible for my own site preparation.
Exactly.
Okay, and my site preparation would include the footings, which will have to ensure that the pod is not only level, but also any modifications or work that needs to be done for plumbing or electricity to come to the pod. That is my responsibility.
Exactly.
What you are dropping off is a modified structure.
Correct.
Right. So it is the envelope, because we now have a new word. It is the envelope which could possibly include a single door, a double door. It can have our different windows. That is what we are getting from you.
Yes.
I like that. I feel informed. And the fact is that they can stack. I didn't know that they could stack. That means I can now have my upstairs and downstairs structure in the little L, like I saw on Pinterest. We're getting places, guys. We're getting places. So we're covered in terms of what your price includes. Does it include delivery, or do you just facilitate delivery? You organize delivery for us?
Yeah, the price doesn't include delivery, but we can offer delivery at a separate price, and we can offer the on-site construction of the pod at another price as well.
Okay, so now the on-site construction. Now I have a picture of a pod being very precariously hoisted over a house, right? To get it onto the property. If I wanted a pod in my backyard, I do not see how you're going to drive this around the house. When these pods come to us, do they come completed, or should I say, do they come erect, or do they come flat packed? How is this thing traveling?
So there's 2 options. One is you bring the pod finished and you put it on like a container truck and deliver it to the property.
Okay.
The second option is you bring it in there flat packed and build it on the property itself.
Okay, so I have both options. So like if I have a very, let's just say a narrow driveway, I don't think most people design a house or a property thinking, hey, one day a trailer is going to bring a pod in the backyard. So there is a way to get this in and to get it built.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, learning something else. There's hope for our little backyard after all. Okay, so I have some good information. I know what services are being offered. I have a sense of what things cost, what you provide, what I would be providing as the property owner. The next question then is, how do we actually get started? Do I just pick up the phone and say, hey, I'd like to have a pod? Do we come in and have a meeting? Where do we go from here?
So the easiest way to move the process forward quickly is to email us with your contact information, maybe that little sketch that I spoke about, or the photos that you're looking for, and set up an appointment to come see the pod here and get a design consultation.
Right.
You can email us at info@oranltd.com. And that will get the ball rolling.
That'll get the ball rolling.
We can even send you a quote via email without having seen the pod itself, now that you understand all the information.
Right, now that we have the bones that we're working with.
Exactly.
What I like, well, a few things that you mentioned that were the selling points for me. The modifications. Now that I know that this is not being made out of the steel that I am seeing in the port. Two, I didn't know that they could come on the property in sheets. I was just always thinking, okay, well, yeah, if you get this pod, how on earth am I supposed to get this in my yard? But you've just explained that it can be constructed there. And then also that I will not sweat to death, because the materials that, while yes, you know, you have to have ventilation, or you may need to put in an AC unit, we're not in a sardine can. As one of you said in your very, very, very polite question, please to ask the people, is this thing going to be like a sardine can? It is not a sardine can, okay? It is not a sardine can. I literally have that as a question.
Yeah, but by all means, if anyone doubts that, come have a look here. We have one on site. They can walk inside, they can see the construction, see the materials, and get a feel for what it is they're going to be getting. So Kelly, this is our show unit.
Okay.
Some of the modifications on this one would include a double door with shop front side light. We also have a louver on the inside. So
okay, thank you. So I'm assuming this is not a gift with purchase.
No.
What is this?
So this is what the walls are made of. This is what I was referring to with the insulation. So you've got metal sheets with an insulated core, and that's what keeps down here from being too hot.
Okay, and what allows us to then cut through and have our doors and additional structures.
Correct. So even when it comes to electrics, you can surface mount the electrics onto this, or if your electrician is skilled enough, they can actually cut into the wall and embed the electrics into this wall.
Okay. Got you. So behind the scenes of this interview is a lady who I was trying to pin down earlier. This is Natasha Ford. Among her many talents, she is the sales manager,
yeah.
And would be the person that you're most likely dealing with when you come to ask about your pod. And in addition to those talents, she also happens to be a hairdresser, and she went to Combo-Mare, which we all agree was the best school. But we won't get there.
No, we will not.
Important question for you, Natasha. Justin would have spoken about price.
Yes.
Is there a payment plan? Because while I do see this as an affordable solution,
People want to know.
the people want to know.
So basically, the payment plan per se is 50% deposit to start the project. So after we've given you the quote, after you told us what windows, what doors you want to have, we give you the quotation, that inclusive of course, and then you give us a 50% deposit to start and get the ball rolling. We will start the manufacture. Once the windows are not in stock, we'll get the windows manufactured, doors manufactured, make sure everything is put together for the pod. I will speak with the gentleman who puts the pods together, and we go ahead from there. Once the pods are set up, that's if you're having it pre-assembled.
Like this.
Correct.
This is pre-assembled.
Right. If you're having it pre-assembled, we will go ahead and put all the windows and doors in as per your specifications. And then once that process is complete and it's ready for delivery, then you pay the other 50% deposit to have the item brought to your location. If you're having it assembled at your location, once we have all the windows and doors together, before we deliver all of those and assemble on your property, then you pay the other half.
Got you.
Yes.
So just for demonstration purposes, guys, I know we said it, but can never be too clear. This is the assembled pod,
Correct.
but it can come to you with the different panels flat. So,
Yes.
and that helps with accessibility. If you need to place the pod in some area where it's not easy to, just roll it in on a truck.
Correct. And
it
it's
will
not easy to drop it into the space.
Right.
We can assemble everything on site.
Got you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Once you have your foundation laid, we can sort you out.
Perfect.
On site.
Got it covered. We're getting a pod, guys. We're getting a pod. Well, guys, I hope we answered all your questions, and just in case I missed anything, you know Natasha, Justin, and the team at Oran can answer them for you. I can tell you, the people say 60 years in 60 days. Oran has been serving us for 60 years, and look at them keeping it fresh with something new. I'm Kelly Johnley, and this is Bajan Renovation.